that way we're all identified. We'll call the meeting to order, and we need 9 for quorum, and we have more than 9. So we are able to proceed with our meeting. So at this point in time, we'd be looking for any board members to declare any conflict of interest that they might have. You are required to self-declare. Are there any conflicts of interest to note? None noted. Okay, we'll move on. At this point in time, we'd be looking to adopt the draft agenda that was circulated. There was one last minute deletion from the agenda, which was a letter of support that was on there. So we will I think Jim was going to make a motion to delete that, but we'll be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda at this point in time.
So moved.
So moved by, I think that was Winston's voice, and Carla raised her hand, I saw, for a seconder. I guess I have to call for a seconder, so sorry. So we have a motion. Do we have someone who wants to second the adoption of the agenda as circulated? Heather, I saw your hand up.
Madam President?
Yes?
I would like to delete the first item of new business from the agenda before it's approved. That's the ground search and rescue letter. So it wouldn't be as circulated. It would be an amendment, and I would move that it would be amended that line be deleted.
All right, so we're looking for a friendly amendment to delete that first item, which is a letter of support.
I'll second it.
So any discussion? Ready for the question to adopt with the deletion of that one item? Alan, is that okay? As the parliamentarian, is that correct? My interpretation of how that can be adopted?
I would say we'll probably get 100%.
Oops, I think we lost him.
I'm here. Hello? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can now.
Okay, yeah, I would say, well, we'll see how the vote goes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks. So we'd be looking to adopt with the amendment to delete that item. Any questions or discussion? None to note. We'll move to the vote. So we'll do as we've been doing the past few board meetings. We'll do a poll rather than asking for yays and then nays. So we'll just start in the boardroom for the first. This is to adopt the agenda as amended. Winston, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Annette?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Perfect. Now we'll move to the screens. Doug? You're muted, sir. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Doug. Alan?
You
I think
didn't hear me?
I couldn't for a moment. What did you say?
Are you not hearing me?
I wasn't just for that brief second. I think there's a
Okay.
little bit of a delay. Did Claudette, did you hear Alan?
Yes, I did.
Perfect. So even if I didn't, Claudette will keep us on track. Sam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And Kathy is our alternate for the LSDs. And since Wade is not here tonight, Kathy is a sitting and voting board member for the purposes of tonight's meeting. Terry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Ken?
I'm sorry I came in late. I'm not sure what we're voting on.
We're voting on the adoption of the agenda with one amendment, and that's to delete the first item, which is a ground search and rescue letter of support.
No worries, I support.
Thanks, Ken. Then we'll go to Faith on the phones,
Yes.
and then we'll go to Wayne on the phone.
Yes.
So we have our agenda. Thank you so very much, folks. We'll move on with it then. The next point that we'll move to is the adoption of the minutes of the October 22nd, 2020 meeting. And they were circulated to you in your board package at the first of the week. So we'd be looking for a motion to adopt as circulated.
I'll make a motion to adopt the circulated.
And that is
Annette.
Annette. Thanks, Annette. And then we would be looking for a seconder. Anybody want to second the motion? Okay, I saw Heather's hand go up there real quick, so we'll do Heather. Any questions or discussion about those minutes? Anything that anybody wants to note? Okay, we'll move on to the question and we'll reverse the order. We'll start with Faith on the phones. Faith, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Faith. Wayne?
Yes.
Ken? Heather?
Yes.
Terry?
Yep.
Kathy?
Yes.
Alan? Alan's frozen on my screen. Nobody else
Yes.
is. Thank you, Alan. Sam?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Perfect. Then we'll move to the boardroom. And Annette?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
And Winston?
Yes.
Okay, we have our minutes accepted from the previous meeting. Thank you so very much. We'll move on to new business. The first item struck per the amendment to the agenda. So we'll move on to the Community Policing Committee discussion. And Carla is the only board member who's on that committee. So she'll be the one addressing us tonight. Carla, take your liberty, please.
Okay. So number one, due to COVID, we haven't been able to meet. So we're not actually meeting our criteria with the bylaws. The RCMP have already decided to report through the RSC, so they're no longer reporting to their councils. Mayors have consistently been unable to carve out time for it, so the RSC will be a more consistent format for the RCMP to give their reports. So this is all triggered by a discussion from the bylaw review committee for the fact that we aren't meeting our criteria and we're not getting our objectives. The mandates are really stuff that the RCMP are making on their own. We're just kind of basically following suit and giving them suggestions, but they are ultimately the ones that make the decisions. So anyways, I've talked with the executive and we've had some discussion regarding this. And I would like to make a motion to the board to disband the CPC committee at this time, as we're really not doing anything.
So is that a motion, Carla?
Yes, please.
And I'll second it.
Seconded by Terry James. Any questions or discussion about that motion? No questions or discussion?
Why are you disbanding it? I mean, here you are, it's COVID. And they say that's why we can't meet.
Yes, and the
Can't we
RCMP
do
are
it?
taking the reports and sending them to the RSC from now on. So really, what are they doing with us?
Well, we should be having a meeting even if it's a virtual meeting.
Well, I thought the RCMP were going to report to the whole board
Yes.
quarterly thing. So therefore, all members of the board will have the opportunity to question and, review the report. I'm not happy about it as a mayor. We sign a pretty big check to them every year and we wanted, I think all mayors appreciated their attendance at our council meetings so that we'd have those opportunities. And with the implementation of the CPC, that kind of went by the wayside. And now even the CPC isn't meeting. So I think for information, having them report right to the board, then everyone gets to hear the same message. And
The only ones that are getting the message are the ones here at the board. It's all the other people that was involved in the CPC that aren't going to get the information.
yeah.
So what I'm saying is it should be held virtually, the same as every other meeting that's going on around the whole province.
That would be great if people would
Everybody's
attend, but
informed.
as you know yourself, we get very few attendance and it's getting less and less.
So, Carla, can you just recap for us as part of the discussion, as far as board member attendance and mayors or deputy mayors attendance, and what was there a large enough turnout, and is there anything that would prevent community members and LSD members? Is there anything that would prevent them from getting that same information by attending as a visitor, or as a guest, the board meeting where these exact same issues would be discussed? Are we going to be losing anything for our communities from your perspective of having been there? What was the attendance success or failure, as it may be?
It's been getting less and less every meeting that we've had. And in order to get people there, I don't want to be the one sitting on the phone calling people and saying, hey, listen, this is what we're doing tonight. I just find it, when you go to a meeting and you're not sure who's going to be there, it's kind of a waste of an evening.
Right.
All the
But
information.
to Dennis's point, is that Faith talking?
Yeah, I
Faith?
was. I was just going to say, I agree with what Terry says. We
Okay.
missed at
Go ahead.
RCMC at our meeting. Hello?
I didn't hear Faith.
Could you repeat that, Faith?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I agree
So far.
with Terry about the meetings. We did appreciate them at our council meetings. We learned at the time what was needed in our community. We could also pass on, what we are hearing. I valued the CPC meetings myself. I went to everyone, usually with Lisa Williams. If I couldn't go, then I sent somebody from my council and my CAO. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to meet. Is that any reason to disband, though, because of COVID?
Well, the RCMP are taking their information to the board from now on. So that was the reason for
I
this.
understand that. I understand that, but it was nice going there and being able to see the sergeants and being able to talk to the other mayors and members of the board and everything.
If I may speak, Madam President?
Absolutely, Jim.
The attendance at the Community Policing Committee has not been supportive of continuing the committee. If you look at its mandate, it says that every mayor and or a member of council or every LSD chair or a member of their committee is a member of that committee. In the last few meetings that I've attended, the number of our CMP officers have almost equaled the number of people in the room representing the committee. What are we getting out of it? It appears to be little. The only time that there were large numbers of people attending was when there was a particular issue. An example of much break-ins in one community, then 5 or 6 people from that community showed up at the Community Policing Committee just to talk about their issue, which isn't really what the committee is mandated to do. So if the RCMP are at least, we could at least look and say, if we want to get reports regularly, then having the board act as the committee would allow us to have an RCMP officer attend a web meeting and give their a report, and every mayor and every chair who's in attendance at that board meeting would then have an opportunity to ask questions about their own area. It's a lot more than what you're getting right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess for the purposes, from my perspective of having.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Madam Chair?
Absolutely, Sam.
Okay, I don't disagree with what everybody says, but I just have one question. Do we have time in our board meetings to give the same attention to as the LSD chairs would get at an actual CPC meeting? The police meeting has one issue, police, and that's it. Some of our board meetings are going, for a couple hours or longer. Do you think there's sufficient time at the end of a board meeting for every LSD chair in our region to be able to ask questions and get answers? And is that going to be a strain on this board, for those extended hours? I agree with, the fact that because of COVID and everything else, if there's nobody attending them meetings, that's fine, but it's no reason to disband. We're just simply postponing the meetings.
There certainly wouldn't be a challenge from the executive committee's perspective, simply because we haven't been having a lot of guest presenters as we've been wont to in the past. It used to be that we would have a guest presenter almost every meeting, and that guest presenter with the discussion would take up a good 30 to 45 minutes. The RCMP are only intending to report quarterly, and they've already stated that they're sending the reports through the RSC. They won't be doing it through the Community Policing Committee. They've just said that. And so from our perspective, if it's an important enough issue, which we do believe it is, to have those reports formally presented through the board, that would ensure attendance, because I know from my perspective as well, I did want to attend the CPC meetings, but with board meetings and other committee meetings and other personal commitments and the charities I work with, there wasn't always the time to be able to attend all the CPC meetings. And I know the board attendance certainly didn't reach the level that we have at a board meeting. So from our perspective, we do feel it's important enough that we could ensure the agendas allow for that once a quarter. And therefore, all of the board members, mayors included, would be getting those reports, and we would allow time for the questions for sure. So from the executive committee's perspective, it wouldn't be a challenge to incorporate that as part of our regular board functions.
Fair point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Sam. Are there any other questions or discussion?
Doug here.
Doug?
I would just add to that, if it's not meeting the bylaws that we've already set for that committee, if it's not well attended, and if COVID is part of the reason, wouldn't it be better to disband the committee, but make a commitment that we will revisit that after COVID and look at perhaps another methodology if we still want to have a more regular contact with the police and have some form of a committee. The other thing I would point out is that the province is now telling us that the policing study that's been going on at the provincial level from the top down, we're supposed to get the results of that, if not in December, early in the new year. And that may have some impact on how we want to restructure ourselves in order to cope with communications with the RCMP. The only other thing I would say is that we're in a bit of a unique situation in St. Andrews because we're the only part of the Regional Service Commission that has its own standalone federal policing contract. And we have recently banded together with the other 5 municipalities in the province. And we've sent a letter to the commissioner, had a meeting, the assistant commissioner had a meeting with them. And we're all now demanding that they come to our municipal council meetings at their officer in charge. So stay tuned. We formed our own municipalities union to deal with the police in terms of their communication strategy. So we're kind of out of it anyway, but I do suggest that if we're going to have a committee, it should be an effective one. I agree with Sam that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but there's no point in making people go to ineffective meetings until we figure it out. Okay. Done.
What's going on? Hello?
I don't know, it's awful silent.
Joyce, are you frozen?
Oh, she is.
I think my
I think,
internet.
I think she said I
I
could
think it's
speak.
my.
I will anyway, because she would say yes. Because everyone else can hear me. So just the way that our policing has not been coming to council, I just go in and talk to my sergeant, like, well, it seems like 3 or 4 times a week now, but I just communicate myself. I don't wait for any meetings and do what's best for our community. And it seems to be working well, but it's not perfect. And I think, did any of you guys get surveys that you filled out last week or 2 weeks?
I didn't get mine filled out yet, but I got one.
Yeah, so I would fill that out because there is, but also back to what Mayor Nice was saying is you're going to see a provincial policing strategy coming on, I would say very soon or coming.
Perfect. Thank you all for their comments. Jim, can you also, I think the discussion, because as Carla noted, it came out of bylaw and you are the chair of the bylaw committee. Was there something about the voting membership as well that wasn't being met when there was a meeting with attendance, even well attended? Was there?
There was a question of constituting quorum, and the definition of quorum for a meeting is outside of our bylaws, and they're attached as an appendix to our bylaw document. And they're referenced as being the standard. And it was a minimum of 9 members representing 9 different communities. There are 17 recognized LSDs and municipalities, and in order to have a quorum, you have to have representation from 9 of them.
Okay.
And that the thing was that if you look back, sometimes you would have enough people, you'd have more than 9 people, but they wouldn't necessarily represent 9 different communities.
Okay.
So we would either have to adjust the bylaws, or we would have to revamp the committee somehow.
So
in order to come in compliance.
Perfect. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate that clarification. So for the, I guess, before we go to the question, I'll just add that from my perspective, certainly the question would be, if we make this change and we absorb those roles of getting the reports from the RCMP and allowing that forum for discussion and expressing community concerns, would we be losing anything for our region by absorbing this into a function of the board? Because that would be very important. We don't want to lose anything. So can we ensure that we don't lose the reporting? Well, we know we aren't, because they've already told us they're coming that through the RSC. And would we be losing that forum for discussion? So perhaps that's something that we can all think about as well. Are there any other questions or discussion? All right, I think we're ready for the question. We'll start with the screens this time. Carla, since you made the motion, I'll start with you.
Mine's yes.
Yes, okay, so the motion, I'll just have to reiterate, the motion is to dissolve the current CPC and absorb its functions into the board.
Right.
Okay, so Carla votes yes. Doug?
Yes.
Then we'll go to Terry.
Yes.
Heather? You're muted. Heather, can you just raise your hand if it's a yes? Yes, okay, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that so much. Okay, then we'll go to Kathy.
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Alan?
I'm going to say no, because I lost you guys for a little bit, but I still think you should stay active and take our quarterly stats and go over them, but in another form. But no, I don't think you should discontinue it.
Okay. And then we'll go to Ken.
Yes.
Doug? Did I get you already?
You did, yep.
My screen, everybody's shifted, and so I lost track of where I was. I apologize for that. All the pictures just changed. All right, so we'll go to the phones. Wayne?
Yes.
No, that's all right. Wayne?
Yes.
Faith?
No.
No? Okay. We'll go to the boardroom and we'll go to Winston.
Yes. And I say that because I'd like.
You got me here.
I'd like St. Stephen, we don't get any representation in our village council anymore. If you stop with the RCMP on the street, you might find something else, but they don't do us anymore.
All right. So Winston is a yes. Dennis?
No.
No. Annette?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
All right. So I will let our secretary to the board determine.
Listen, you forgot me.
Oh,
Hello?
who did I forget? Wayne?
Wayne Sturgeon, Deputy Mayor Grand Manan.
I didn't know you were on, Wayne. I'm sorry. You might have come in when
No,
the yeah, and we'll rename you. I'll get Hollis to rename you so that I don't lose track. Sorry about that, Wayne.
Oh, that's all right.
Perfect.
So
So
I'm
Wayne,
gonna side with, I'm gonna say no.
you're gonna say no? All right.
Yeah.
Did I get all of the board members with the shifting and the phone I didn't recognize? Did I leave anybody out? Certainly it's not my intent. Everybody got a chance to vote? Perfect, and I'll cast my vote. My vote is yes. So Claudette, were you able to tally the votes? Did we get our majority? Did we get a majority one way or the other?
Yes, we did, Joyce. We have 4 voting nay.
And so the motion has carried.
Yes, it has.
Okay. Thank you all for the good discussion and for your honest comments about your perceptions. That's what a good board is all about. Certainly not about always agreeing, but having that respectful discussion is what it's about. So thank you all so very much. All right, so with that done, Carla, was there anything else you wanted to bring, or was the motion the final part?
No, that's it. That's all.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome, Carla, and thank you. Okay, we'll move on to committee and staff reports, and we do have a good recycling update. Tricia, it's been a while. It's so good to see you here at our board meeting. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us. And I'm just going to turn the virtual floor over to you. You take your liberty. I know there's lots going on, so we're excited to see what it is.
Thank you for having me, Madam Chair. It's really nice to see everybody tonight. It's been a while.
Sure has.
Hollis, I believe you have a presentation to bring up.
Got it?
All right, I got it. So you can start with the first slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about the recycling in October. As you can see, these are our recycling numbers for October only. St. Stephen, St. Andrews, Campobello, LSC, Southern Sanitation, of course, is our Charlotte County local service districts. LSD Faro is Penfield and LaPro. St. George, obviously, York, includes Harvey and Blacks Harbor. So overall, we had almost 76 tons of recycling brought in October, with a diversion rate of 12.13%, a good solid number. Now you can see that St. Andrews is at a 30%, although I was very excited with that number. You have to keep in mind that St. Andrews actually had 2 recycling days in October, the first day of October and the 31st. So although I celebrated a little early on that.
Context is everything.
Yeah. In all fairness, every community gets that once every now and again. So
they sure do.
Still a win for St. Andrews. So, and still good numbers. Great numbers across the board. Glad to see Blacks Harbor at a 5%. They've been bringing their numbers up, so we're happy to see those numbers coming in. And Campobello has been doing very well. So great numbers across the board. And our white goods recycling. Well, we're done. We did start a little late this year, so we missed about a month of white goods collection. So even though we missed a month of white goods collections, we still collected quite a few appliances this year, 664 for our a time that we were doing that. Last year, we collected a little under 700. So I think that we did very well this year, even though we lost a month of that. So a good number and a nice success for us. And the big news, everybody wants to know. So we fully transitioned to using JS Woodstock as of November the 1st. Everything we have goes to them now, which is great. I had the opportunity to visit with JS Bellis earlier on in the fall. It's a great facility, great people. We've had some great opportunities with them. Not only are they in New Brunswick, which is great. When I spent the time with Gordy, their director, I asked him how our recycling was going to impact their facility. And we're actually doubling their production. So in that doubling of the production, they have the ability to expand their crew. So they're looking at hiring more because of our recycling being sent up. So that's great. The second thing that we were really excited to do is because Bellis also takes Western Valley's recycling, Western Valley is now able to expand their recycling to include everything that we do. So it's a double win for us. And of course, Woodstock is closer and in New Brunswick as well. And the third win for us is cost. it is a significant savings taking our recycling to Woodstock. As you can see, if we compared, we sent 4 full loads around 70 tons and it cost us $8,700. Comparatively, if we sent the same amount to Society Via, it cost us over $14,000. So we're saving a significant amount. It wasn't that Society Via was very expensive to ship to, it was the shipping cost itself that was really getting us. We were sending 3 loads a week and each of those loads were costing us around $2,100. So in switching to Bellis in Woodstock, we eliminate that shipping cost because the truck is already here. So it's a cost-effective choice for us and a good ethical choice for us as well. So I think that's a big win for Southwest New Brunswick, for us to keep our recycling in New Brunswick and for us to be able to cut costs at the same time.
And greener.
Yeah.
Yes, less distance, so greener to ship for sure.
So I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to see the promotional video that's on YouTube. It was kind of a serendipitous video. Western Valley did a big video on Bellis and they sent it out and we all had a good look at it. And Hollis and I both saw it and went, wait a minute, this is a great idea. So we actually reached out to Ben Cummings, who created this video, and said, hey, any chance you can put something together for us? And he did within a week. So we actually have this out now. We're going to release it to the public on Facebook probably the beginning of next week, and also to CHCO TV. It's a great video in explaining how our recycling gets to Woodstock and what happens to that recycling once it gets there. And we were very fortunate to be able to use some of our own drone footage from Hemlock Knoll. So it's a really nice video. If you haven't had the opportunity to see it, it's a really cute little watch. It's only 3 minutes, only take 3 minutes of your life to see it. So let's talk about the ETF and how much money I've spent this year. So our ETF this year is just about complete. The calendars have arrived and we have begun delivery in the communities. So far, we've been to Harvey and McAdam. We've been to St. Stephen's, St. Andrews, St. George, Blacks Harbor, and Penfield. Most grocery stores in those areas have them. In Penfield, we did leave them at the post office, whereas there's no grocery store in Penfield. It looks like we're going to have to do another round of deliveries in St. Stephen. I received calls today that they were already out of the 1,000 calendars we left last week. So people have been really looking for those. So it's nice to get those. Those places we haven't been to yet, Deer Island and a few other spots we will get to. Still trying to figure out how we're going to get calendars to Campobello. So we're working on that. The bags have arrived. We have new bags this year, much like the ones we created when we did the residential curbside. So those bags are here and we're getting ready to give those out. Of course, anybody wants them, you know where they are. We did a new series of waste reduction brochures that would include information on hazardous waste, on backyard composting like last year, local recycling programs. A lot of people ask, where do I take my TVs, or what do I do with my oil, or what do I do with my batteries or tires? So for us to be able to do up a brochure called Thinking Outside the Cart, kind of to give our residents some information on what we have besides what goes in your blue cart and doesn't go to the landfill. So we've got all those ready to go and we've been distributing them to communities and schools as we go.
Trisha, may I just ask a question, Trisha? The recycling bags, are they just like a reusable shopping bag? Is that what you mean by them?
They are, right, exactly. So they're very similar to the ones that we created when we did the curbside, the cart delivery.
But nothing in these ones, they're just a bag?
No, just a lot of information on the back.
Okay, perfect. And are you putting them out at certain places to give away? Are they a promotional?
So we've been, right now we're giving them to our local food banks and they've been distributing them, but we can certainly deliver them anywhere that you'd like us to. If we leave some at the town halls and the village offices, if they'd like to distribute them.
Oh, awesome.
A lot of the times we will take these to trade shows and to any event that we're out with the information booth, or if we're at the schools, and that's when we use those. We had the opportunity this year where we couldn't do public information sessions. We wanted to get the best bang for our buck, so we thought it was a great opportunity to amp our brochures and print work and bags.
Perfect.
If we're picking up recycling and waste at Campobello, why can't we just get the calendars that way? Go down with the trucks.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. I will look into that.
Good idea, Alan.
you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, I just had a question. Trish, you could keep going. I wasn't trying to stop you. Thank you.
So now we have some upcoming projects. The Environmental Trust Fund grants are ready to go. We're getting ready to put in for a new request this year as well. Of course, we're going to include the cost of next year's calendar. So far, we've been doing very well with getting that cost covered. We want to continue our partnership with CHCO TV and 98.1 Charlotte FM. That has been very beneficial for us to get information out to the residents. We also want to renew our mobile app and website. We're finding that with COVID, people are going paperless, and they really are, their online presence is very high. We actually have over 25,000 households using that mobile app right now for their calendar. So that is a huge impact to our residents. So we're going to request that renewal in our next Environmental Trust Fund request.
25,000, Trish?
25,000, yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, this is the only instance that COVID helped anything. The only time. That was once we really started to push that online presence and that mobile app, and the participation went through the roof over the summer. So
that's excellent.
People are loving the email and the text message reminders. It's become so helpful when we need to put out a quick message, an alert, or a snowstorm or a holiday. So that is, it's a great tool to have, and I'm glad that we have it, and I'd like to continue to use it.
Excellent.
Well, that doesn't even make sense, because there's what, 26,000 people in Charlotte County, right? And then we got what? How much would York County add to it? That's a
4,000.
Yeah, must be 4,000 or 5,000 maybe.
So you're talking 30,000 people, and 20 of them are on 25.
25,000 calendar views on the website app. Yeah.
Oh, views. So it could be the same
so
multiple
they're using
times.
it. Yeah.
I got you.
Oh, so it's not households. It's not 25,000 individual downloads of the app.
Oh no, not downloads of the app. Uses of the calendar app.
Oh, okay. Individual uses, not households.
Yes,
Okay.
not
Okay.
household. I'm sorry. So
No, that's okay.
25,000
That's
individual uses of the calendar app. There could be some people who have it on two different, they could have it on their tablet and they could have it on their phone. So that could be duplicate as well.
But it's been used 25,000 individual times. Is that in a month?
That is in the last 6 months.
In the last 6 months, it's been the calendar's been accessed 25,000 times.
In the last 6 months. Yeah.
In the last 6 months. Okay, perfect.
Sorry, but I was excited, but it's still exciting. It might not be as
exciting. It's still exciting. It's still exciting.
I'm thinking you could probably start selling ads on that now.
Good, yeah.
That's awesome. We're just all excited. That's awesome. Thank you, Trish.
And I don't know if any of you remember a video that we did in, I'm going to say 2003, late 90s, early 2000. We did an informational video on Hemlock Knoll, and we'd like to redo that video. It's great information. There's some wonderful information about how the landfill works, how we reduce our waste, how we manage our residents' waste. The video is definitely outdated. There's some spectacular hairstyles. So we're looking at this year redoing that video. So we're going to put that request in our ETF request this year.
Is that video on the website? Because now that you've said that, I'm going to have to go look it up.
I'm not sure if the old video is on the YouTube page. There is some misinformation, so I'd hate to share that too publicly. But if you get the opportunity to see it, there's some great hairstyles and some familiar faces that have been here for quite some time. So we'd like to recreate that video with updated information so we could share it because it's good stuff. And we're also going to request for signage and for promotion for the public drop-off area once it's complete. We want to make sure that we get as much information on that public drop-off area at the landfill out to our residents as possible. So that's everything we'll be requesting in the ETF grant this year. We're looking at about 45,000 we'll be requesting. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Trisha. Any questions for Trisha?
Nope, just welcome back.
Yes, it's really good to see you again, for sure.
It is nice to see everybody.
Mhm. Thank you, Trisha. I don't think anybody has any questions. I'll do one last scan. No questions? Okay, thank you, Trisha, so very much. And then we have another staff update. And that would be a newcomer to, as far as to the board's arena. Sherry is covering for a maternity leave posting, and she is assuming the role of the recreation plan implementer for a temporary stint. And we're so glad to have you here at our board meeting, Sherry. I hope I pronounced your name right. And we're just glad you're here. And I'll once again, just like I did with Trisha, turn the virtual floor over to you. Take your liberty with us. And thank you for joining us.
Great, thank you, Joyce. And you did pronounce my name correctly. It is Sherry. For those of you who I haven't met, it is nice to meet you all. And some of you I've had some conversations in the past couple months. Today, I want to take an opportunity to update everybody on the 3 pillar or key initiatives that the recreation team, or Tanya, and now I are trying to move forward. I'm going to bring up a presentation here for you all to start with. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll see if I can get it to work now. There we go. Perfect. So today I'm going to touch base on the Coastal Link Trail and, more importantly, its long-term sustainability. The progress to date that we have made on the development of the recreation cost share policy, and saved the fun part to the end, which is the development or progress made on the Southwest website. So most everybody is likely aware that the first segment of the trail was implemented and built this fall in St. Stephen. And I want to take a moment just to kind of refresh everybody's memory of how the Coastal Link Trail was originally established. So it was with the assumption that the Coastal Link Trail Board that was established would act more of like an advisory and planning board. There would be support staff from Fundy region and the Southwest region. And then once that trail was constructed, the eventual maintenance and operations or turnover of the trail would land and fall within NB Trails. And under that structure, the board and the Service Commission staff were able to have about 98% of that trail routing finalized. And we have 10% of that trail planned for implementation in 2021, pending funding from the province. And I'm going to take a quick moment to quickly update everybody on the trail routing, just to give you some context into some future conversation points here in the presentation. On the far left-hand side of the screen, you see there's St. Stephen, and again, the trail's ending in Rockwood Park. And then you'll note that we have these large P's on the screen. These are future staging areas that are planned throughout the trail. The intent is, because it is a something to promote tourism, that people will have easily accessible spots to stop, park their vehicle, gather information about the trail uses, and carry on whichever way they want to go. Some of the future staging and parking areas are within certain municipalities that will be implemented, such as St. Andrews and St. John. And then we have a few other outliers within rural areas, one being just outside of St. Andrews, on the corner of Route 170 and 127, it was deemed as a possible location. We have one over over by the New River Beach area, potential staging area, and then one more over by Dipper Harbor. And what has happened since the trail was originally developed was that we've had MB Trails disband in 2019. And I met with, and the board met with the Deputy Minister of Tourism, Heritage and Culture back in September. And it was clear there that there is no plans for municipal or provincial body for maintenance and operations or a similar organization. The Fundy region also pulled their support from the trail. So everything from New River Beach to St. John area is something that has fallen underneath the Southwest Service Commission's portfolio with respect to planning and implementation. And another point to note here is that the current board of directors has no intention and has expressed no intention to act as a maintenance body post-construction. So essentially they want to just be the ones to help facilitate the trail. Now, the reason this is important is because right now, yes, 85% of that trail is along DTI roadways. There can be maintenance agreements and a structure put in place with DTI with their shoulder policy that's in the works. And the other 9% of that trail, it falls within towns or cities where we will work with them to have a maintenance agreement put in place, very similar to what St. Stephen has in place right now. But there's 6% of that trail that sort of falls in no man's land, as I would call it. Those being two areas, again, outside of the Regional Service Commission's area of interest or current boundaries. So one being the Musquash region, which is about 3.5 kilometers. There are also some routing options and a little bit more work that needs to happen in this select segment. And then also along Spruce Lake. And this one makes up close to 8.5 to almost 9 kilometers of trail that doesn't fall within DTI roadway, doesn't kind of in ground lands. It's not something that can necessarily set up a quick agreement with other landowners to help assist with the trail's long-term operation. So the reason I'm
on that point, who made the decision especially with regard to Musquash and Spruce Lake, that it would fall under our responsibility? Why would it not be the people who live in that area?
That's great. I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Just wanted to give you some context. Yeah, I'm just trying to paint the picture of where everything is at right now. So originally it would have fallen within there. We would have had Service Commission helping out potentially. And what I want to get kind of gear everybody's attention to now is, so we have a board who wants to implement a trail. We have select portions of the trail that will not have anybody to maintain and operate it. And the question is asked often is what's happening elsewhere? More specifically, what's happening up north with the Velo route. They are one that has had good success implementing, promoting, and really driving that initiative forward, and something that the Coastal Link Trail is looking towards. And the good thing about what they have set up is that they have the Velo route helping to plan, maintain, and operate their trail. So the board of directors is invested with that. If you recall me saying that the board of directors of Coastal Link Trail they're not invested to continue on that work. They also have a Friends of the Velo route, so donations and sponsorship section, and then they also have still some support from the Service Commission. So that brings the question of, Terry, you were mentioning, or Mayor James, sorry, of, what happens with those segments that are within outside of the Service Commission 10, but they aren't owned by anybody. We currently have the Service Commission acting as a support for the trail. And so we're talking about how can, and this is more of an information for you all, of, I think the trail body is going to need to go under slight restructure in order to ensure that it has some sustainability to it. We don't want to build a trail and then have it not completed, which some people suggested that might not be possible once we, do we stop the trail construction when we get to past New River Beach outside of our trail? Or do we help them set up a Friends of the Coastal Link, establish, another body to essentially help fundraise and really be the body for the maintenance and operations. And then the Service Commission continues to just provide general oversight and support for the Fundy Region Trail, very similar to what we're doing now. If there is anything that is needed, we would just offer a service there, assuming that the Friends of the Coastal Link Trail board that's been created will help, and that the trail becomes a part of the recreation master plan for the for this region. The other option would be that if the entire board disbands, which is what they have discussed and planned on, that there would again be another body implemented and put in place, essentially a new board, where their mandate is strictly going to be to maintain and operate the trail. So again, and this one could potentially be something where the Service Commission would continue to provide general support of the entire trail, provide potentially some organizer of the maintenance and operations of the trail if they need it, and again, just provide those support services. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that this is something that I don't expect to be working on immediately, but it is something that the province has asked us to essentially put in place a long-term maintenance and operation strategy and plan. And we are looking at these two scenarios for the trails, sustainability and long-term viability. So I'm going to stop there and ask if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I do.
Sherry?
Why wouldn't the portion of Musquash and Spruce Lake fall under the Fundy Regional Service Commission? I'm just concerned that it will be viewed as stepping on toes, if you will. I think every opportunity should be given to them to look at it. Maybe their service commission set up the organized, Friends of Fundy Trail, and have it composed of people from that area. I mean, they might look at us as overstepping, or is it a case that nobody wants to do it? That could be too. But there's always a cost associated with these things. And I just caution that, just to be aware that that's a potential, not risk, but it could potentially impact us. So I would like to see at least that portion of it so that we can focus on our regions, trails, that we're going to struggle as it is, for, like you said, like for the maintenance and the ongoing maintenance, and that I think if we focus on our region and get it done and do it right, and let the other regions take care of themselves. I mean, of course, be there for information, support, that kind of thing, but I wouldn't want to be stepping on another region's toes. That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Sherry, did you say at the beginning that the Fundy Region Service Commission was involved and are no longer? Is it because they chose not to be, or?
Yes, they withdrew. They withdrew their support.
So there must be a reason for that. That maybe we're not privy to. You just don't withdraw support without cause, right? So I would like to have more information on that portion of it. The other stuff I totally get and I totally agree, you know, but I'm just concerned about that portion. It's not on us. We didn't plan it, right? And I mean, it's nice to help out, but there's a reason.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts before I move on? Okay. Thank you, Mayor James. That is insightful. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Onto the proposed cost share policy update. I am not going to spend too much time on this because there is a special meeting coming up in December to go into this in great depth. However, I did want to just sort of highlight where we are in the process of this policy development that has been in the works for roughly a year and a half. And we have originally started with the problem identification, which was ECRA and stakeholders from Eastern Charlotte bringing some things to the Service Commission's attention. And then that's when they did their due diligence, researched, and did a bunch of stakeholder engagement with various private and public stakeholders to really understand what the problem was. Then they moved it forward onto the policy analysis and seeing which route was best to take, working very closely with Dillon Engineering and the Dillon report that is often referred to. And then further engagement and policy refinement done with the SURF committee, and further strategy and policy development has occurred since that SURF committee has finalized. So I am at a position now where I am ready to present the full policy, engage and consult with all RC board members to essentially ask for the adoption of the recreation cost share policy for the entire sub-region. So that meeting in December is an important one, which I hope everybody is able to attend. And if no one is able to attend, I would be more than happy to personally present that presentation that I will be sharing with the board members to continue to engage and consult with everybody prior to. I do have meetings arranged with all of the CAOs next week to have another set of lenses on that policy that's been developed to ensure that we have it right, because the region is large, the demographic is dynamic. So a policy that it can be a little bit complex because we wanted to ensure that it met all of the needs of the different demographics and needs of the region. So that meeting in December is something where we are going to be moving ahead and asking, pending all of the information that I will present at that meeting. But it would be the intention that if it is successful in its adoption, that we would move forward with policy development and have it in effect for January of 2022. So that is what I'm going to leave at that for now. And I expect much more conversation, engagement, and involvement at the presentation for the special meeting for the cost share policy. But I will stop here and ask if anybody has any questions or comments.
I have one, Sherry. You mentioned a surf committee made. For those who aren't familiar with that, including myself, can you just explain what that is?
Yes, so the surf committee was a committee established with various recreation professionals, LSDs and RC members to review the findings of various studies that were prepared by third party, so outside stakeholders, and then the one that the Service Commission had conducted as well, and essentially review, extrapolate the findings and ensure that what that the ECRA report, Eastern Charlotte Recreation pop quiz here, I'm trying to remember the acronym here, but it was Eastern Charlotte Recreation report, to ensure that those findings really did, because it was a consultant committee was established to essentially have just a second set of lenses on there. So they put forth recommendations on that.
Okay. And that committee no longer exists. It was an ad hoc committee, served its purpose, and
yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Perfect.
I
All right.
have a question and a couple of comments, please.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Sam, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sherry, on June and October, you have proposed budget increase presented, and October vote for CRP budget increase.
Yes.
Can you tell me what budget increase means? Does that mean tax increase, or whose budgets are you talking about there?
Absolutely. Sam, to clarify, the cost share policy sees that every LSD and municipality collect 2 cents per $100 of the property value of their home. It is collected, and it is those funds collected are going to go into the existing cooperative regional budget. So we already have that budget line item. The funds collected.
Whose budget?
The existing.
I can take that if you want, Sherry. It's
Yeah.
what you're talking about is the actual Regional Service Commission budget. So when you guys, our budget that we normally vote on every year. So because this is something that's administered through the Regional Service Commission, we have 3 silos. We have our solid waste silo, our local planning silo, and our cooperative regional. The cooperative regional is a very small budget right now. It's about $100,000. So this would be an increase to that. And that is where this fund comes from that gets administered later on. So the budget is the Regional Service Commission budget.
And
Okay, a second question, please. So,
yep.
So do the individual LSDs that are that may possibly be contributing to this, are they going to have an individual say in this tax increase?
It's part of the Regional Service Commission budget. So,
but it would affect our taxes. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a tax increase.
Yes.
Okay,
In
so
essence.
my question is, will the individual LSDs have a say in this, or is it just going to be voted on by the board? And it's just a question at this point, and I'll tell you where I'm leading with this. Again, it's just a question and a comment. When the Eastern Charlotte Rec Committee was first formed, part of the reasoning was to help cost share with some of the municipalities that were overly burdened with looking after arenas and so on, and we understand that. In the last few months, things have changed. You have a government that is now promising to, quote unquote, have the LSDs pay their fair share. We've had an announcement in the last week or 2 weeks that the gap assessment on property taxes is being removed, which is going to cost the average taxpayer $100 or $110, I forget the exact figure. And that's going to provide municipalities with, I think it was $8.9 million. They have promised to change local governance and so on in the next 4 years. So my point is that I think the criteria has changed a little bit, and the LSDs would be very interested to find out if they are going to have a budget increase right now, and a year from now, their taxes are going to go up no matter what in order to cost share with all these municipalities, then it's a different question than it was 2 years ago. And LSDs, I think, would want a little more of a say than just having a board vote for a budget increase. But that's a comment. So I think it's worthy of discussion with some LSD people and so on. We all understand the reasoning and the need for helping out with these rec facilities. I don't think anybody's arguing that they shouldn't be helped. My issue is that, why would we vote for a 6% increase right now if the government's going to turn around and increase the taxes in the rural areas anyway for the very reason?
Right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Sam. And I do sympathize with that. I had the same question in my mind, and I mentioned it to Hollis, Sam. So I do understand where you're coming from with that, and we can certainly discuss it a little more when we have this special meeting. And it wouldn't pass unless it passes our budget vote. So we certainly have lots of time, and hopefully in that time frame before we would ever vote on it in October, I'm certainly hoping we would have a lot more information about those other points that you mentioned that rest solely in the hands of the provincial government, but they are worth keeping in mind and discussing further in December when we have that special meeting that's devoted entirely to this one topic, because we feel it's important enough that it needs its own set time frame. So we can thoroughly flesh that all out. So thank you, Sam, for putting that seed in our minds to be prepared for that conversation.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sam.
Is that
Sherry?
meeting going to be a night meeting or an afternoon meeting?
Well, the executive committee, I thought the request was going to go after the executive committee met, but I don't see it in my inbox. But the suggested date was Tuesday, December the 15th. It will go out tomorrow. A suggested date or 2 dates. There's no, we will only have it if we can get guaranteed quorum. So there will be a timeline to reply by, and you will need to reply by a certain date, because we don't want to have a bunch of people set aside the meeting and only have 8 in attendance. And then, so we want guaranteed participation. We're going to have a reply by date that's at least a week in advance of the meeting. And we'll only proceed if we have quorum. And if we don't, we'll reschedule for early in January, probably the first week when everybody's back in semi-school or whatever is happening after the new year is over. So we'll put out two possible dates there, and that request will go out tomorrow. And it'll be a special meeting designated just for this topic, and Sherry will come again and do a more detailed presentation. So that's what we're looking at doing for the discussion. Is there any other questions for Sherry? Lots to think about. Get your questions ready for the special meeting, and be watching your inboxes for the invitation. Sherry, did you have anything else that you needed to present to us?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide on a lighter note, because those last 2 were pretty heavy, some good news on the Southwest website. So Southwest Service Commission and the Town of St. George have, as one of these sponsors, have partnered with Jackets Creative to launch the Southwest Recreation Hub. The project is underway, and what we have decided to do is take the direction of this website acting as a place for you to discover activities within the entire Southwest region, to connect with people and to play. So we've taken the approach to sort the activities offered within the Southwest region by stage of life rather than what community you're living in. So here you can see, this isn't final, but this is me trying to explain the idea or the intention here, that you can sort by something that's suited to your stage of life, or you can filter by the activity that you're looking for, with the intention that if you're looking for something that involves an organized sport, you can click on that and it will populate all of the organized sports within the entire Southwest region. And then you as a user or interactor on the website can then decide where you would want to travel to or connect to. We've also had an opportunity to include some arts and culture clubs, camps, and we are looking as well as potentially some educational items. So some further cooking classes, knitting classes, those types of things. We are also working on, for the Explore portion, a consolidated map of all of the private and public trails that are currently on 3 or 4 different domains or Facebook pages, and consolidating them onto one centralized map where you could easily access it and then hover over top of. So for example, on Minister's Island, you can hover over this person, and then it will give you a brief description of what it is, and then you can click through and explore more. So the thought behind this was that a lot of the hidden gems, or a lot of the great features that the Southwest region has, sometimes it's either the information hasn't been relayed over onto the digital age that's still on physical hard maps, or you're only privy to that information if maybe you're well integrated within the community. So the intent was to share all of this information on the website. And finally, visual web identity. Just wanted to share this here too. The intent was to make it bright, fun, and evoke a sense of just excitement. So that is all I have on the website and my presentation for today.
Perfect. And is that, Sherry, may I ask, is that website going to be linked and accessible directly from the SNBSC main page?
That's correct, yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions for Sherry from the members of the board? No questions or comments? Thank you, Sherry, so very much. It was a pleasure to have you in front of the whole board. I know you've met with the committee, but it was a pleasure to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
All right, so with Sherry's report done, we'll move on to the executive director's report. We're doing good. It's only 7:15. I think we'll be able to move along quite quickly here. So executive director's report, Hollis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is in the package as you saw. I'm just going to go over a couple of points. Our solid waste volumes are actually trending up for the first time this year. And October, we had more waste than year over year, which is the first month that's happened, especially since COVID. So we seem to be going in the right direction. Our planning department is staying extremely busy, as you can see. Building permits and development permits are record highs. Luckily, the staff is still maintaining. There was a brief period of time this year where it was a little bit of a delay in getting building permits just because we were just back behind in work, but they have caught up, and things are still moving on smoothly. And I attribute a lot of that to gained experience that the staff got this year, just being thrown into it, but they've done quite well. Some other news, I've made some small updates to the website. I'm going to share the screen here. One minute. Just so I can show you what it is. So on the main page of our SNBSC website, I've updated some stuff here, so we have all of the extra links for all the work that we've done, as well as work that's associated with us, with the special attention at the moment paid to the housing study, which we talked about last month, the link to their website and the document. I did put a couple of other things up here, like the drone video. So anyway, just to say that there's been some updates to the website, and that's going to be ongoing as well. And our executive director bi-weekly meetings we started them up again. We started them up at the beginning of COVID because we couldn't meet in person. And we were going to meet in person, so then we started meeting again bi-weekly. And it's really beneficial to see what everybody else around the province is doing, and we bounce ideas off each other quite regularly this way, and I find it very helpful. And finally, our big fiber optic network project is complete, or at least the fiber optic network part of it. And one of the first benefits we're seeing there is the cameras we've installed around the site. I still have a couple more cameras to get installed. One camera is going to be on top of the landfill itself. And it's a little bit different because there's no electricity if there's nothing else. So it's going to be a solar powered standalone unit that we can actually move around if we have to, but it wirelessly will connect to the rest of the network. But that'll give us a good view of the working face, which is on the other side of the hill now. And we'll be able to monitor that, especially when it comes to times for like things like fire, safety concerns, and things like that as well. There's a couple of other cameras that we've identified that would help us out with a lot, and we're finding that it's really kind of helping the management of the site to have these cameras up there, and it's really helping even people like the scale operator. She can see after a truck leaves the scale what happens to it all over the site. And that's extremely helpful because they do get lost sometimes. So yeah, I didn't have a lot more in this particular report. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Hollis about that executive director's report? No? Okay, we'll move on. Hollis, I believe you also are responsible for presenting us with a strategic plan update. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so the updates I've also included in the package here. I did a big update on the actual community planning activities that are what the status is of each one of those. And you can see there's quite a bit on the go there. Another part of our update that's new this month was the housing strategy research, which was part of our strategic plan. Main website, which I've just gone over, is part of our strategic plan as well. In terms of community engagement and that part of our plan, the videos that you see us doing, which is like the recycling video, the drone video, and things like that, that falls within community engagement as well. So that's part of the plan as well. I've had some meetings with, there's a development group in the eastern part of the region. They've reached out to me to ask for some assistance in some of their information, their research, and things that they want to do down there. So that fell in with our plan as well. Meeting with Future St. Stephen to talk about just combining some resources and seeing what resources we have to offer that could be helpful. And we talked about some future possible initiatives, which is to come. That's my report.
Any questions for Hollis about the strategic plan updates? None to note. Was that done? Oh, go ahead, Terry. Sorry.
One is the strategic plan update after it's board approved within the minutes. Is that on our website so that if people are our minutes and in their entirety on our website after they're board approved?
Yes.
Okay. Is that strategic plan included in that? The update?
No, it's not in the minutes, but that's a good point.
Okay.
They can be.
Yeah, would you please? I've had requests for it from council. So if I could just direct them to the website to read the minutes, they would have all the information they have, requested.
Sure, no, that's actually a really good idea. I'll do that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Hollis? And I do believe, Hollis, if you want to just pull up that website and show them how to access it. I know I have looked at it before, and I know Jim has in his work on the bylaw committee, and just show them how it's sorted by year. And it's very user, at least it was before the last time I looked at it, was very user friendly.
Yep, yeah, if you want to get to any of our documents, under governance and documents, it's all right there. This works on a mobile phone as well. It just kind of puts it in one row instead of three, so it's easy to read. So our reports and our budgets and the minutes of meetings they're all there back to 2013 since we started.
Great.
Thank you, Hollis. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions for Hollis before we move on? All right, so we'll move on to the Regional Collaborative Oversight Committee report, RCOC. Terry James, Mayor Blacks Harbor, is the chair of that committee. So Terry, I'll turn the floor to you.
All right, well, thank you. It's not really a lengthy report. The committee met on November 12th. We had pretty good attendance. Sorry, I'm just going through. Hollis had given us an update on recycling on Tricia's behalf with a report on tonnage and JS Bellis. Under recreation, Sherry gave us a report on the regional recreation website contract. She was asking for help with persons who could be a point of contact for existing or upcoming programs, recreation programs within their communities. We had a discussion on cost sharing, the Coastal Link segment, and discussion on future of trail operations. Our action items were to ask the executive committee to call a special meeting to discuss the recreation cost sharing model, and I believe that's been done and set up. And with there being no further business to discuss, we adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the chair of the committee? Questions or comments? None to note. Thank you, Terry.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. And then we'll move on to the bylaw committee report, and Jim Tubbs is the chair of that committee. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met twice in November on the 9th and the 23rd. Bylaws were further reviewed and some problematic language was cleaned up. Several updates were made, and the committee's in the final steps of preparing a new version of the bylaws to be presented for board approval, and we hope to have that ready by January 2021 next year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Terry? Yeah, questions, Terry?
Yep, I just was wondering if you're going to do it the same as the last time with bylaw revisions, in that when you do present the final report to the board, that the changes that you did make or, edits are in a different color ink so we can see what was taken out and changed.
Jim?
Yes, we're prepared. We're going to show you the original bylaws with any strikeouts colored yellow, and new additions or new wording will be in green. And it'll be fairly clear to see where they're changing and why. So that will be part of the presentation on the bylaws when they're done.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments for Jim?
I have, Joyce.
Dennis, go ahead.
Is that going to be quite a lengthy presentation?
I would
with discussions and everything else that's going to take place on it?
It could be. It could be. I can't say for sure, but there are some significant changes in some areas.
My recommendation on that would be to, once they're done, that we will give them out to board members to review well ahead of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
rather than present it as a new item at a meeting, if you know what I mean, then.
Well, if I could interject, Hollis, there will be a notice of motion, so it will be presented to the board in one meeting, and it, by our own bylaws, has to go out to them for at least, I think it's a minimum of 28 days for them to review before we could ever ask them to adopt even a part of it. So definitely, and if Jim feels and the committee feels that it's worthy of its own separate meeting, then we'll certainly, the executive committee, I'm sure will be more than happy to oblige, so that there's lots of time to review and discuss. Is that, Jim, is that how it works? There will be notice of motion, am I correct in?
You notice the motion to change bylaws, yes.
Yeah.
I still think it's going to be there's going to be some controversy and there's going to be quite a bit of discussion. It's going to be quite lengthy.
Probably, you're probably right, Dennis. We'll probably be ending up spending.
I'm not probably right. I'm almost positive that it's going to.
I think you might be, yeah. You'll probably see us calling a special meeting. Oh, goodness gracious. Any other questions for Jim? Or comments like Dennis had? None to note. Jim, do you have anything else, sir?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, with that, the bylaw committee report is done. We'll move on to the financial report, and Winston Gamblin is the mayor of Harvey, and he's chair of that committee. Is Winston with us in the boardroom?
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Chair. We had a meeting on the phone meeting on November 17th, and we discussed, the committee discussed implementing a new capital reserve fund for planning, mainly to provide a replacement fund for vehicles as needed in the future. The committee discussed the capital reserve fund for the solid waste and decided there was no need for the surplus transfer in 2020 because there's not money in there, I guess, or not. You don't need to put any in. The committee discussed the amount of cost of living increase for 2021 for staff and determined that an average of the past 3 years of CPI, Consumer Price Index, for New Brunswick would be appropriate, as has been done in the past years, whereas the increase is calculated to be lower than what was budgeted for. No motion is needed. And we have two motions here. Motion is the Board of Regional Service Commission of Southwest New Brunswick resolves that a capital reserve fund be created for the planning division.
We have a motion. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
And that was Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded, so now it's open for discussion or debate. Do any board members have questions or comments about the motion to create a new capital reserve fund for the planning departments? No questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to the vote, and this time we'll start back in the boardroom. Winston, since you're the chair of the committee and you made the motion, I'll let you start with the voting.
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Annette?
Yes.
Jim?
Not here at the moment.
Okay, no problem. We'll come back to him. We'll go to the phones next. Wayne Sturgeon. Wayne Sturgeon? Okay, Wayne.
Yes, I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Got me now? Okay.
Yeah,
very good.
how do you vote?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wayne McQuarrie?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now we'll go to the videos. Alan McEachern.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Curtis. Yes. Sam Walsh.
Yes.
Heather Hatt.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Carla.
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So with that, you have your motion unanimously carried. We will be creating a capital reserve fund for the planning division. Winston, back to you.
Jim is back now, you can ask it. All right, the second motion.
I missed Jim, didn't I?
Oh, yeah.
My vote is yes.
Okay, well, it was passed without you, but we'll add your vote formally.
The second motion is the Board of Regional Service Commission of Southwest New Brunswick resolve that $50,000 be transferred for the planning division surplus to be planning division reserve funds.
All right, we have a motion to remove $50,000 from the planning division surplus to the newly created planning division's capital reserve fund. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Sam Walsh. Do we have any questions or discussion about that motion, Terry?
I just want to know, where did the 50,000 come from? I understand it's a planning department surplus, but how was that surplus generated? Was that through fees or through other means?
Hollis?
Lower,
Hollis?
oh, yeah.
Or
So-
Winston?
No, let Hollis. So,
The reason that the planning department has a surplus this year is last year when we made the budget, I had to budget on what was going to happen, knowing that a couple of things were probably going to happen in 2020, but I can't include that when I'm creating the budget last year.
Right.
Those things did happen, and therefore they have a sort of a healthy surplus this year. So that's where it came from.
Okay, thank you.
So it came from fees and a change in staff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the motion? No hands up, no comments on the phones. All right. With no further questions or comments, we'll move to the vote. And this time we'll start cameras. We'll start with Mayor Doug Naish.
Yes.
Mayor Ken Stanix.
Yes.
Mayor Terry James.
Yes.
Carl Brown.
Yes.
Sam Walsh.
Yes.
Kathy Curtis. I think I read her lips says yes. Alan. Excellent. Alan is thumbs up. Heather.
Yes.
Wayne McQuarrie.
Yes.
Wayne Sturgeon.
Yes.
And to the boardroom, we'll start with Annette.
Yes.
Jim. Winston.
yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Jim stepped out again, or is he there?
I voted yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. And my vote is yes. So it looks like we have our unanimous motion, and we have our first deposit to the Capital Reserve Fund for Planning, newly created. Thank you so very much. Winston, back to you if you have anything further.
Well, we just have the year end. Oh, fine, here again. We have the financial reports from about, there's 4 or 5 pages there, and as Hollis says, things are picking up at the landfill for tipping fees and whatnot, and everything looks as good as it did last month, and probably a little better. We seem to be in a surplus in just about everything, so I think it's running very, very well. And between Hollis and I, we could probably answer a question or two if you have it.
All right. So the financial reports were included, and that was, I believe, year to date to end of September. That they were October that they were in there for, end of October. Yeah, so you can take your time to peruse them, and as always, if you have any questions after, they can certainly be answered as well after if you see anything. But are there any questions right now from what you see in front of you or had distributed to you? No questions or comments about the financial reports? All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is the date and time of next regular board meeting. Now, keep in mind, this is not the special meeting that you will be getting an invitation for. This is the date and time of the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Per standing motion, it's the 4th Thursday of every month. So with that in mind, our next regular board meeting, unless someone makes a motion otherwise, will be January 28th, 2021, because we're assuming nobody wants to come right around Christmas Day. So January 28th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m.
Good.
No motions to the contrary. All right. So we'll move to questions and answers with the public. We only have two public on screen with us, Tricia and Sherry, who are staff members. If they have any questions, they're certainly welcome to ask. And Hollis has been monitoring the live feed to see if there are any questions as well. Hollis, is there anything that we need to
What happened to Faith Avery? She's not on there anymore.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's been gone for a while. Okay.
No questions from the public, Madam Chair.
No questions from the public?
I move we adjourn.
Dennis, that's your role forever. Motion to adjourn. So it was good to see you all. Take care and stay safe, and we'll see you all again at the special board meeting. Make sure you check your inboxes and reply, okay?
All right.
Good night, everybody. So
Good
good
night,
to see you. Thanks again, Tricia and Sherry.
Well, thank you.